So let's get to the other news because we're going to spend a lot of time before we turn to Super Bowl 55 on a blockbuster trade that came out of nowhere after 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night. Word was leaked, and things like this get leaked deliberately, and the fact that it was leaked when it was tells me it's not a giant win-win. Otherwise, they would have saved it until today and taken over the first day of Super Bowl week with the news and the reaction to it. The trade that sends Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford to the Rams for quarterback Jared Goff, a first-round pick in 2022, a first-round pick in 2023, and a third-round pick in 2021. I was blown away by it. I thought the reports that the two teams were talking were aimed at maybe helping generate a trade market for Stafford, help goose it a little bit because Brad Holmes worked for the Rams, and it also was helping send the message that the Rams were done with Goff, but there was no way they were going to work this out. They couldn't work it out, not without a first-round pick this year, not with Goff's gigantic cap number and cash commitment. No way would they work it out, and they did.
They did, and, shocking but not shocking. I mean, in some ways. So Saturday morning, Mike, I'm texting with a few people around the NFL and just catching up. Hey, what's up? How's everything been? You enjoying the offseason? Things like that. I did get word then that things had gotten serious, right? That there was going to be, something going down later on today where, the Rams had found some sort of partner or trade partner for Jared Goff. So I was kind of just, oh, okay, that's interesting. I wonder who it'll be. And then, we get the news on Saturday night. Blown away. I mean, really, that's the first thing I'll say. Blown away just in the fact that I didn't know if it actually would ever happen. Not blown away that it was the Detroit Lions and that it actually happened with them. I mean, you mentioned it. It's Brad Holmes. There's some home cooking involved here with this deal altogether. But I'll say this. I don't know, Mike. I mean, right off the bat, let's just hit this. You're shocked by the price tag of what it took to get Stafford there in L.A. For the trade?
No, because it wasn't just the price to get Stafford, right? Part of what the Rams paid was to offload the Goff contract. You hear 2 1s and a 3, and I saw someone tweeted the question, should one of the other teams that were in contention for Matthew Stafford have offered 2 1s and a 3? That misses the point. You're not giving up 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick to get Stafford. You're getting 2 1s and a 3 for Stafford, plus inheriting a $43 million fully guaranteed commitment to a guy that the Rams didn't want. This was the only way the Lions were getting this, and this was the only way that the Rams were avoiding a Brock Osweiler type of a trade, because if you strip Stafford away from it, and I was texting with the GM yesterday morning, like, how much of this was for Stafford and how much of it was to take Goff? And we kind of settled on a 1 and a 3 for Stafford, and the Rams giving up the 2023 first-round pick to offload Goff. That's what this deal was. It was, give us Stafford and please take Goff off our books.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. And then that's where, I know there was some initial shock and jaw-dropping over, the price tag. Matt Stafford, he's never won a playoff game. You hear all that type of talk. But the reality is exactly what you said. You got a player in Matthew Stafford, for lack of a better way of saying this, who's twice as good as Jared Goff for half the price. So that is going to drive up the value of the player tremendously just because of that. I mean, realistically, Matthew Stafford is a quarterback that dances around the top 10 in football. You give him the right support system, he's a top 10 talent in football. That's what he is. And then you got a guy like Jared Goff who, legitimately, or at least in my eyes, in my evaluations, I think is towards the top 10, bottom 10 or 12 quarterbacks in football. So then when you look at it that way, plus the guy who's the lesser quarterback is being paid basically twice as much as the other guy we're talking about that's a top 10 talent, that is going to drive up the price. But the Rams don't give a damn. They were done with Jared Goff. They had their eyes set on Matthew Stafford, and they were going to do what they needed to do to get the job done. And that's what I at least respect about the Rams. They're not a dip your toe in the water type of football team, that's for sure. when they like something, they go for it and they play it aggressive.
Well, yeah, when they like something, they go for it, like they did with Jared Goff when they moved up to get him. When they did with Jared Goff when they paid him before they should have paid him. They could have avoided this entire mess if they just hadn't paid him a $33.5 million a year contract in 2019 when you and I were saying, don't do it, don't do it. They did it. 2 seasons later, they give up even more to get him off the books. It's stunning to me that it came to this as quickly as it did. And, I was trying to understand what kind of message they were sending with these ambivalent at best statements about Jared Goff from Sean McVay right after the loss to the Packers in the playoffs. The next day, an even more clear comment from McVay that Goff may not be on the team next year. Les Snead, the GM of the team, and his comments from last week when he met with reporters. I thought, what in the world are they trying to do here? Are they just trying to give Jared Goff a hell of a wake-up call? I think what they were trying to do was get the fan base and the media that covers the team to wrap their brains around the idea, this guy's gone. He's gone. Get ready. He's going to be gone. And I think it made it a little bit easier for the fan base to say, okay, well, we're giving up a lot here for a guy who's never won a playoff game and has only been there 3 times, and Goff has won 3 playoff games the last 3 seasons, 2 in 2018, 1 in 2020. Okay, well, let's go. Let's see what we got here. And so, yeah, this thing was happening because the Rams were determined to make it happen no matter the cost, and that's the key. Without the Stafford component, they would have had to have done a Brock Osweiler type of a hot potato trade, and that would have been significantly more embarrassing than when you look at the final tally for what they gave up to swap Goff for Stafford.
Oh, well, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, honestly, Mike, I think the most fascinating part of the whole trade, the whole story, is how quickly it all fell apart between Jared Goff and Sean McVay. It was always.
When do you think the moment was? What do you think it was? When was the moment that they were like, this is it, he's done?
I don't know if there's like a moment to where it's just like all of a sudden there was an epiphany or anything like that. I've been thinking about this a lot since the trade just because, I knew we were going to talk about it and all of that. Like a few things jump out to maybe where I think this could have changed. One, like we talked about, they made it a huge investment in a guy, and one of the weakest links on their starting 22 roster is the highest paid guy on the football team. That's not going to sit well with people in the locker room or, of course, the coaches and the organization. Evaluating your own team is always figuring out how is your money performing. That's not helping. But then I think, this is the other 2 things, Mike, that jump out to me. Yes, they had to manage the offense in a way that helped Jared Goff, right? That, played to some of his strengths and his weaknesses. They played an offense that, didn't show them. They could hide them that way. So I think that got tiring for Sean McVay, most likely. And then the other thing I look at, too, is just this year he became careless with the football, too. So, hey, wait, now he doesn't make plays, and now I can't even manage him anymore because he's starting to be careless with the football and fumble, throw dumb interceptions in big moments of the football game. And I think that, to me, would be like a Sean McVay type of coach who came from John Gruden. That would be my, inner soul deep dive look there to what I think would happen. But I don't know the answers to that. It's very intriguing.
Look at that top line.
You look at that?
Deep passing percentage, 7.8 for Goff. 37th, folks, there's still only 32 teams in the NFL, in case you forgot. 37th in the league with a deep passing percentage of 7.8. And, Chris, to me, this is a more complicated and convoluted mirror image to the Brady Belichick, who was responsible for what went well with the Patriots all those years. And we're going to see it interlocking and intertwining between the Rams and the Lions, because as Stafford leaves Detroit, we get a chance to find out whether or not the failure of the past 12 years was him or them. And as Goff leaves the Rams for the Lions, we get to find out whether or not the regression of the offense, because obviously the team hasn't been horrible. They won in the wild card round this year. They lost to the number 1 seed at Lambeau Field. I mean, what did we expect? Did anybody think the Rams were going to go in there and actually win that game? I don't think so. But the offense has regressed. Is it teams have caught up with Sean McVay, or is it Jared Goff was never all that good? So that's one of the things we're going to find out. And look at how the offense has dipped. Look at the scoring from first in 2017 to 22nd in 2020. Unbelievable. And look, I think a big part of it is Todd Gurley. He was the offensive player of the year in 2017.
Sure.
It was late in 2018 when that knee started to be a problem, and that's when the greatest show-offs on turf part 2 started to lose their punch. They managed 3 points in the Super Bowl in part because Todd Gurley was no longer Todd Gurley. I think Gurley had so much more to do with the rise of that team than Goff.
Definitely.
And for the regression though, is it that the passing game was just never all that great without a guy like Goff to make it go? Or is it defenses have caught up with Sean McVay? We're going to find out pretty quickly.
Well, there's a little bit of both, but like Kristen, if you could you put that graphic back up there too? Because I think there's, you talk about the scoring, but look at that bottom line, Mike, the turnovers. It's just a little bit of what we just talked about. Hey, we can get to the Super Bowl and be a playoff team with 13th, 11th, in football and turnovers. Whoa, 22nd in turnovers. Wow, no, you better make some plays to make up for all those turnovers. Oh, no, you didn't. We didn't make the playoffs. Oh, 25th this year in turnovers. Yeah, I know they made the playoffs, but it was a struggle offensively all year. They had to have the number 1 defense in the game who made a lot of plays and big moments to help them win football games. But Mike, you're right. We're going to see. I mean, listen, I think there's a little bit of both here, and that's what's amazing about this trade. There's just so much to unpack here with, one, the Rams are fortunate, that they found a team that had a personnel guy, a GM, who believed in Jared Goff still to be a starting quarterback. So that was a huge benefit for the Rams. There's no doubt about that. Now, people catching up to the McVay offense and all of those type of things, yeah, I do think that's true. I agree with you there, and I agree with your Todd Gurley assessment. I mean, we were saying when you were banging the drum about why pay Jared Goff, I know one of the things I was saying was, I agree with you, Mike. I don't understand. It's, hand the ball off, Todd Gurley 20-yard run. Fake the ball to Todd Gurley, throw him a screen, and he ran for 40 yards. He was a very important part of that football team. But once he went away, that put more of the spotlight on, wait, our running game's not as dominant. Hey, quarterback, you might have to make a few plays for Todd Gurley, whose knee's not the right way and now not on the team. And that never happened. And to me, Mike, that's where Matthew Stafford is going to really help the football team. He's going to be able to still run all those same plays, but now he's going to have a more aggressive mindset. And because he's a better thrower of the football, he's going to be a better decision maker. He'll be more aggressive with throws down the field. And it's going to embolden Sean McVay to open things up, too, with all these plays, too. Go, whoa, my guy can do this. Whoa. The last guy I had couldn't throw this route. Now I can throw it with this guy. Let me find some other cool things. And I think that's going to be the beauty of the marriage between McVay and Stafford.
So it's not just going to be slants and bubble screens. It's going to be ball down the field to Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. That's what we're going to see?
I would think so, yes. I think, you're going to see a blend of what we've always seen with the Rams. But McVay's going to have a new toy. And like I was talking about, I mean, hey, you joke about it all the time. He's kind of like a mini Gruden. And I've been around a guy like this when he gets a new toy. It becomes a lot of fun. And, ooh, let me try this. And, ooh, I never did this play before. Let me see if he can do it. And I think he's going to tinker and toy with a lot of different plays and concepts in the offseason just to help out his normal offense.
From Goff's perspective, the environment recently with the Rams was characterized to me as toxic, and that it is McVay desperate because the league has caught up with his offense, and he needs to show it wasn't him, it was Goff. And that's a little bit of the Gruden influence, right? It's never the coach, it's the quarterback. And I agree with you, there's going to be an adrenaline rush for Sean McVay. And it'll be interesting to see how Stafford responds to that, not just short term, but over the course of a full season. At what point does Stafford say, dude, settle down, I got this. No, just chill. Just come on. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 12 years. Like the relationship itself, we'll see how that works over the long haul. Stafford's a different kind of guy, and I don't mean that as a criticism. He's just always been a different kind of guy. Shows up, throws the football. He's never been keen on the rest of the trappings of being an NFL franchise quarterback. I've said before, I think he doesn't want to be that leader. He doesn't want to embrace that full Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, there's a new sheriff in town reality. But he also didn't get, and I'm trying to think of the right word to use here. The Lions were bad for 12 years, and he was content for most of 12 years to be part of a bad team. Other quarterbacks would not tolerate that. They would say, get me the hell out of here long before 12 years in. So that's what I'm curious about. How does Stafford's unique, and I don't mean that in a bad way. We all have our own unique personality. He's got a unique quarterback personality. How's that going to fit with McVay? And it's going to be great at first, and it's never going to be better than it is as Stafford walks through the door. What happens over time? How long does this last? And he is going to be 33 on Sunday, so it's not like they have 15 years. But, they did great things in 5 years with Jared Goff. It just tailed off the last two. So maybe the first few, if Cam Akers continues his trajectory upward, maybe he becomes kind of like Todd Gurley. Maybe the offense opens up and you still have Aaron Donald and you still have Jalen Ramsey. Maybe the window's still open for this team. But I think there's a ton of pressure on McVay to get this right and to show that Stafford is dramatically better than Goff.
No, I don't disagree with you. I don't. And really, ultimately, when it comes to that discussion, I will be shocked if it doesn't show that way, that the offense isn't improved and McVay, does have the ability to show you, oh, hey, no, we were handcuffed a little bit by the quarterback situation we had here. Not anymore. And I think you're going to see a different variety of plays and offensive schemes. I would be shocked. I really think the marriage in a lot of ways is perfect, Mike, for a lot of the reasons you said. You kind of said it last week, even when you brought this up when we were talking about Stafford. Yeah, he might not be that rah-rah guy. He doesn't need to be on this team. He's got a psycho head coach who's a rah-rah guy. So that's where it really fits well. Now Stafford can just kind of go play football, and maybe we'll see more of that demeanor that you're talking about. Again, I'll always argue it's hard to be that guy when you've been in this culture this whole time of no success, no leader to show you the right way to win a football game or act. He's never really had anything to sit there to where you and I can just tangibly go, well, he did have this in Detroit, and that should have taught him this. There's really none of that to speak of. So that's where I'm excited for Matt Stafford. And what I do know about the situation is Stafford was keen on making this happen with Sean McVay. You and I know there was both a lot of suitors for for Matthew Stafford in the trade market, and there was teams that were interested. I know he told a handful of teams no, and he was steering this trade towards getting with McVay. There is some sort of personal relationship there where he wanted to play for him. I know that very clearly, and that's where, that helped out this trade as well.
Here's what else is fascinating about this, because Brad Holmes, the new GM of the Lions, had just come from the Rams as one of the right-hand men to Les Snead, the GM. Brad Holmes, the director of college scouting, he'd been with the team a long time. So he's in the middle of the bubble. He sees what's going on with Goff, and he still wants Goff, which kind of implies that it wasn't Goff, right? To take Goff and to be happy about it, and supposedly they are happy about it. We'll talk more about the Lions' angle of this coming up. I'm trying to fold this in from the perspective of the Rams, that whatever the feeling was about Goff within the building, it apparently wasn't universal, because they did get a guy who had just left the building to take Jared Goff. And the planets had to line up perfectly on this. They really did. If Stafford wants the Rams want to unload Goff, and, oh, look, we got lucky here. Our former director of college scouting ends up as the new general manager of the Detroit Lions. We're able to make this deal happen. And, it's hard not to wonder, and this may be reading too much into it, but did the Lions have an eye on Goff when they hired Brad Holmes? Was that part of the conversation? Was that part of what got Holmes the job? There was a shared vision that maybe Goff is the answer once they know they're moving on from Matthew Stafford, Chris. I don't know, and we never will know, but man, it just is amazing how this lined up perfectly. And it's not one of those things where in hindsight it was like, wow, this was the only deal that could have been done. There are other deals that could have been done, but this is the only way that you get Stafford to a place where he wants to go, and you get Goff out of L.A. in one transaction that isn't a bright red sign. We failed. We have to give someone net trade value to get rid of this guy.
No. I mean, that's what's amazing. I mean, Brad Holmes, I do think that was a great signing by the Detroit Lions. I really do. He was with the Rams when they drafted Jared Goff. So this was a guy that, hey, was in that front office and most likely was a believer in what Goff can do and will do in the future and all those type of things. That was the big part of the trade. Yeah, there was obviously some home cooking here. We know there were some other teams involved. But the thing that was big here was you had to have a team that was willing to accept Jared Goff as their starter. And to me, that was the biggest wrench in the whole conversation. And with Brad Holmes, he obviously believes in Jared Goff, the person, the player. And then, hey, the Detroit Lions, we got draft picks now to go along with us. Well, Brad Holmes, I mean, that's kind of what he does. So he wants to build through the draft and do that. And it works out for the Rams because they seem to be anti-work through the draft. Let's just sign star players that are proven commodities, and we'll build a team that way. And that's what really helped out this whole thing as well, which was very unique. And last thing that I just find a little unique because it popped into my head and I meant to say it earlier. I do think it's funny that Matt Stafford's going to L.A. to reunite with his buddy Clayton Kershaw, who he went to high school with. I think that's kind of a cool fact too.
Yeah, L.A. by way of Texas, where they went to the same high school.
Right.
The high school that Bobby Lane went to, and Bobby Lane put the 50-year curse on the Lions when they traded him. That lasted 60 years, and who knows, maybe it's going to extend beyond that. But, this is what I'm really fascinated by as it relates to the Brad Holmes, Les Snead dynamic, the two GMs who did this deal.
Yeah.
You always want to sell a trade as win-win because you don't want teams to not trade with you. You don't want to have a reputation for always kicking the other team's butt in a trade, or teams will shy away from being the next one to get their butt kicked. But to me, this is either Les Snead thinking, man, I really snookered Brad Holmes to get him to take on that Goff contract, or Holmes thinking, man, I really snookered Snead to get Jared Goff and to get them to give us extra trade assets to take Jared Goff. I wanted Goff all along. This is great. I come out of this with even more than I would have gotten for Matthew Stafford because I made them think I was taking their garbage away.
Well, I mean, listen, maybe that's the fact of the matter. But, I don't look at it either way as one team won or lost. I think both teams got really what they wanted at the end of the day. The Lions knew it was over with Matthew Stafford. They got a quarterback who's won and can be a part of their culture and be a good soldier. Jared Goff is that. There's no doubt about that, whether we want to debate how he plays on the field. So, hey, they got their starting quarterback. And they know their team has a lot of holes and issues, and they need to rebuild it. So now he's got the draft picks to go along with it. For the Rams, I think they're going to be able to look at it and go, wait, we think our team's really good. In fact, we think if we had a better quarterback, that they think they probably might be playing this weekend. I think that's how the Rams view themselves. And I think they look at it and go, we're in the window. We're in L.A. We like the star power thing. And I think McVay and Les Snead will just go, wait, we got our stars. Okay. And now we'll fill in, the other positions of need. Oh, wait, offensive line. Okay, we don't need blue chippers. Sean McVay's really good at coaching that part. He'll hide some of the deficiencies there. Oh, we'll get a Darius Williams, in the third or fourth round of the draft, things like that. And they seem to be content building their team that way. So I really think it is a win-win, though, at least the way I look at it, Mike, on this one.
Well, it's a win-win to get the transaction accomplished. Whether it's a win-win moving forward is a different issue. But from the standpoint of the immediate problem that the two teams had, the Lions need to get maximum value for Stafford, and they need a quarterback to take over, at least in the short term. And the Rams need to get rid of Goff and upgrade at the quarterback position. On paper, win-win. Whether or not both teams win, we'll see. And there is one game they'll play in 2021 where both can't win. It's going to be Lions at Rams at some point this season. A game that you otherwise would look at and go, eh. Now you look at it and you say, put that one in prime time, baby. Let's see Goff versus Stafford, and hopefully early in the season before either of them may get injured. And I'm not trying to put the jinx on them. I'm just saying, you don't want to bury it in November or December because you never know. The world changes a lot by the time you get late in the season. As it relates to the Rams, one thing that hasn't changed, their draft philosophy. They opt for the scratch instead of the pick. They want the guy who is proven, and they're willing to give up those first-round picks. They will have gone, unless they go out and trade for someone else's first-rounder, which based on their habit of trading away first-rounders is unlikely. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, with no first-round pick. Their last first-round pick was the guy they just dumped onto the Lions in Jared Goff. That, to me, is amazing. And you know what? I got a theory that just popped into my head. Okay. Remember when they got all those picks from Washington for Robert Griffin III? And at one point, Les Snead wrote on a whiteboard somewhere something along the lines of dominate with Washington's picks, right? And they made a big deal about, well, you know what? When you go back and look at what they got, they didn't do crap. They didn't dominate. They won that trade. Right. They didn't dominate with those picks. And that may have developed for Les Snead an aversion to using any first-round picks. Because you know what happens? When you use a first-round pick, you open yourself up to criticism that you picked the wrong guy. And then you have to spend the next 3 or 4 years hoping that the guy develops, because if he doesn't, you look like an idiot for using that first-round pick. So if you can swap that first-round pick for a proven player, number one, you never get criticized for making a first-round pick that ends up blowing up in your face. And number two, hey, well, we brought Brandon Cooks. He's a proven commodity. We got Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, it took Robert 2 first-round picks, but he's a proven commodity. Robert Woods was a free agent they signed, but the point is, you're right. We're unloading first-round picks. We're using free agency and trades to get proven commodities, but we're never putting ourselves out there. Right? The Rams are the team that is afraid to dance for fear of being criticized for their moves. They won't put themselves out there drafting first-round picks because they don't want to be criticized for drafting the wrong guys. I mean, at a certain point, when you go that many years without a first-round pick, you come to the conclusion this team just doesn't want to use first-round picks, Chris.
Yeah, no, Mike. I mean, I think you hit on it. I think they're into the proven commodity, world of building a football team. And two, again, the other thing I'll just say, because the guy, is a carbon copy of a coach I was with for a long time, Sean McVay, I don't think they have the patience for the young guys sometimes. I think they look at it and go, wait, our team's ready right now. I don't want to, have to take a step back to wait 2 years for young guys to develop and do things like that. So I think they're a little, anti that approach to a degree. And I think they look at it and just like the graphic we showed of some of their first picks the last few years, I mean, yeah, they're second and third round picks, but they're good. I mean, these players contribute to their football team. They're players. Gerald Everett, Noteboom, Rapp, Akers, they're all in there playing, contributing to that football team. Let alone they got other guys down the line who are really damn good too. So LA, I think, feels, Les Snead and McVay feel comfortable about their ability to get bargain draft picks, guys that'll contribute to their team in the middle rounds. And I think they like their ability in evaluating free agents and doing that. And they've not, you can't really argue it at this point. You really can't. I mean, since they've been there, hey, they've been about as relevant as any team in football, except for maybe, the Patriots. So that it's been impressive and it's working to this point. So we'll see where it goes from here.
They have embraced the concept of year-to-year life in the NFL, where every team is dramatically different. And you don't have that nucleus of young talent that develops and grows over time. That's what happens when you don't use first-round picks. You end up sacrificing the ability to have a group of guys who will work together, grow together, achieve together, succeed together, and be part of the team into the future. Now, look, that's no guarantee either. I mean, Minnesota's followed that approach for the last 10 or 15 years, and what has it won them? At least the Rams have been to a Super Bowl. But you put a lot in your effort every year to go out and improve.
You do.
And if you fail in any one year, it could all fall apart, and then you're left with a franchise in shambles. That's the challenge, Chris. You put more stock in your ability to make good free agent moves and good trades when you're not taking the young, cheap guy that you would develop over time. And maybe you're hitting the nail on the head. They just don't want to develop young players. Like John Gruden didn't want to develop young quarterbacks. He didn't want to mess with you. He'd have rather brought in a veteran. He don't want to have to teach this kid who's wet behind the ears and not wise beyond his ears to learn how to play quarterback. He wants somebody who knows how to do it, like a Rich Gannon.
No, definitely. I mean, that really went for all positions. It wasn't just quarterbacks. It was, he made comments all the time like that. Well, I don't want to get a rookie here when I can get a 7th or 8th year guy and we can hit the ground running and going, and we don't have to wait for this rookie to fill in at right guard and, wait to him to catch up. I think there is certainly an aspect of that. And I think the other aspect that allows them at least to play this type of game, to what you're mentioning, the free agents, the proven commodities, the middle round draft picks, the not building a team like that comes together like you're saying, that's a bunch of young guys. See, the one thing they have that's the ability to do that is McVay. Because of his ability to communicate and bring the guys together and be so good in the camaraderie department and talking to guys, he can bring a team together maybe quicker than some other coaches in football can, because that is a special aspect of what he brings to the table. And because of that, yeah, they can probably flirt with this kind of team building maybe more than other teams out there.
Well, Jared Goff trades in the kind of team building that clearly had made him not part of the team in L.A. for some good old-fashioned kneecap biting with the Detroit Lions and new coach Dan Campbell. How will Goff do biting kneecaps as he's getting up off the turf at Ford Field?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.